And you want those concha malaise convicts to act in this play? The convicts?
Sometimes art can change the artist more than the audience.
If you live, I will never again imagine another man when you make love to me.
It's something I'll never forget. It's an incredible time of creativity.
If Wisehammer can think he's a big country lad.
We got through it.
Oh yes, your punches start to roll when you got to keep me.
It's going to stick with everybody for a long time to come. It was really special.
Like this. Look up to the circle, to the side, and down.
The power of creativity, it's just so beautiful.
She will be, Your Excellency. I can make sure of it.
No.
Finding humanity and graciousness in a difficult situation.
And why don't you work instead of it at
Just open it up and be to us.
I guess you can say we will always remember the play that never was.
I've never worked with a group of kids like this from the very start of the production. I knew when I walked in after that first read-through that we had the right group of kids for this play. They wanted to learn and they were hungry to tell the story along the way.
It was quite an exciting process.
Man, this was such a learning experience.
Like being in that group.
Very close-knit. We all spent a lot of time together.
Stuff started to click and you start to see the costumes and you start to see the lighting and you start to see the set coming up.
I feel like we also grew a lot as actors. This let us grow and explore different range of emotions.
Everyone's joined in. We've got the harmony started.
We became quite like a family.
I was lucky enough to have seen Jet perform at a UWA Open Day, and then his name was echoed in by one of the music teachers. I just thought percussion, that sound, and getting a percussion artist in to work on the piece just felt right. So I remember when this all started, a fair few months ago, Jet, we were on this bare stage talking about the possibilities of you collaborating with us.
I remember our first rehearsal. I came in and I was seeing these students moving and responding to the music, and it just felt like the perfect environment to start interacting with the students, and it was so responsive.
So that organic process was something that we had going for us, like from the beginning. We kind of just had to take the leap of faith and build our wings on the way down. So we didn't really know what was going on.
The challenge and the confronting elements that were in this play, I think that really actually helped us develop ideas as well, because everybody was in new territory. Everybody had to give something, and everybody felt happy enough and confident enough to feel that they could give something without being judged, exchanging ideas, exchanging cultures as well. And I think that's the kind of benefit and the kind of opportunity that programming such a challenging and confronting but really rewarding work provides.
Ms. Parker emailed out 5 or 6 monologues and duologues, and then we got to pick which one we wanted to go for. I know that Ms. Parker asked me to reread Robbie Ross's lines and told me to do a Scottish accent, and she really loved that.
Oh, and not only have your Christmas run away, they've stolen food from our stores.
You start with the lines, then you start forming the scenes, you start blocking them, then you add little bits of costume, and then when the set just comes in and the lighting, it just all seems to click and you can fully develop into that character.
The creative process, all those weeks, is almost more special to us than the performances, because that was like all the hard work we put in, all the bonding. This play dealt with heavy topics, so being close with your fellow actors is important when creating that chemistry or that conflict.
It was a really nice process to find the deeper meaning, the links that the Indigenous people have to the land.
There was a lot more development we had to do for our characters, and there was a lot more development we had to do as a cast, and we had to get on top of the issue, go back into more of the context of those times, taking all the information we'd learnt in school, in history lessons, and applying it.
made me feel really blessed to actually be on this land, because this wasn't originally our land and we are guests. And you know, it's a privilege to be here.
I don't think anybody thought I was going to say what I was going to say at that rehearsal. The idea that the show would not be happening at all was, I don't think, in their frame of reference or in their minds at all.
We were sitting in on a rehearsal just before we were about to start, and Miss Parker had kind of solemnly walked in.
That day was quite devastating, especially for us Year 12s.
They sat us down and told us straight that it wasn't going to happen, and then the waterworks started.
And I could see them welling up, and the Year 12s all started crying.
When we were told, it was pretty emotional. And then I saw Miss Parker start crying, and then I saw everyone around me was crying, and I was like, oh my gosh, they're going to flood the whole building.
It's one of those things you just gotta accept, I guess.
It was definitely a hard pill to swallow.
Once we heard that COVID-19 was a real thing, it was happening, we were then told that we had 1 week left. We could have our final rehearsal.
I think we took about 20 minutes after we were told to let it sink in, and then reality hit that we only had a couple of days.
It just feels like the world around them was crashing, and it's about how do you rise from that, how do you emerge stronger than before.
Everyone came together and found the best way for us to present it.
Before that, we thought, oh, we had a month left, so some people didn't even still know lines and things were a bit sloppy.
I was like, look guys, I said, this sucks ass, but we're gonna get through it and we're gonna be fine. And we were like, yeah!
People really picked up the pace, rehearsed stuff, got their delivery right, you know, thought about their character, kind of fleshed them out a whole lot more. I think that pressure, in a sense, was good.
We kind of just threw everything into it because we didn't have anything to lose, and it was our one shot at performing it.
Put full energy because we knew that these were going to be the last few rehearsals, and so I think that made it even more meaningful.
We have not had the pleasure of meeting.
We were like, look, we're going to work with what we got, and we just like powered through and did like the best performance we could.
What they did together was just take the opportunity and the time that they had to create something special.
Here. Thank you, Lucy. I do much appreciate your effort.
Very heartbreaking, but on the other side of the coin, it was exciting to see how the team pushed hard to make it the play that never was. We worked really hard, finished as much as we could, and gave the students the best possible experience. We were sort of doing some rough rehearsals on the Monday, and we thought, geez, we've got a long way to go yet. But by the Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we were almost at a show level, and then Saturday it was like you were watching the proper production. Although we were sad, that pushed everybody up to another level, and I think that's what became the really special part of the production.
When I say Kye's lines, I don't hate anymore.
To be able to do what they achieved in a very short space of time, and also what was happening behind the scenes, even with students helping as well, to get the tech side up and costumes to be ready, was quite extraordinary.
The opening scene of the play is pretty epic. The audience enters to the cleansing ceremony, and the idea that before anyone arrived there was life here, that sovereignty was never ceded. And you just see suspended one of the First Fleet ships in model form. Being carried across the ocean with the fabric moving. It loomed large in trying to tell the journey of those 8 months, because so much must have happened with all of those ships and all of those people.
My character is Robbie Ross. I was very firm in my beliefs, and my beliefs were that, you know, convicts were bad, they need to be punished.
You are telling me that he's feeling modest.
And I was like representative of those people in the world that just won't change, they won't accept change, you know.
Some loony play! I'm going to write to the Admiralty about this. You are out of turn, Robbie.
If you thought about the political spectrum of the time, my character would have been on the very, very far opposite. So it was interesting, that kind of dynamic between like the different beliefs of the officers.
Liz, you may be despised, but you will have shown courage.
If that soldier has lied.
The scene where all the convicts were dancing on stage, and then eventually all the officers, well, most of the officers got to join them, except for Watkin Tench and myself, and we decided to stay in the audience because, you know, we're firm in our beliefs.
I think it did remind me of why those kind of values are important. It did make me realise why, you should be an open person, an accepting person. I think it definitely reinforced it for me, at least.
Surely they can be reformed.
We are talking about criminals, often hardened criminals. They have a habit of vice and crime, and sometimes it can be more than habit, an innate tendency. Most of them are born that way. It is in their nature.
My character was only 18, which is similar age to me, and having to put yourself in that mindset where you have to imagine yourself in a situation that's pretty eye-opening.
Don't you dare!
You're not playing Morden's maid, Smith. You're playing Melinda's. Okay?
I'll prig all his clothes and go to my older brother. He don't want me. Lizzie says. Why training for a mate when you can whack for a wine?
Overall, my character was very harsh and cold from in the exterior, but she had different types of relationships with different people. So I learnt how to cohesively play every single one of those relationships within a scene with multiple characters that I had very contrasting relationships with.
I'm sorry. 7 years, and I'll go back.
What do you want to go back to England for? You're not even English.
Which is something different to anything I've ever done before.
You play a man, Jack Wilful.
Yes, but in the play I know I'm a woman, whereas if you had to play Kite, you'd have to think you were a man.
If Wise Anna could think he's some big country lad, I could think I'm a man. People will use their imagination, and people with no imagination shouldn't go to the theatre.
I still sometimes have a little bit of Dabby in me, I'm not going to lie. I start doing the accent when I get a bit feisty.
Yeah.
It's true.
As soft as Lieutenant Clark's dimpled cheek.
Dabby, don't!
First, I was like, I cannot connect with Dabby at all. She's very self-centered, but in the end, I've fallen in love with Dabby.
But that's what you said that morning. I have lived a very wicked life. I had to say something, Mr. Brewer.
Harry's a very complex and dark character in that he was a former hangman of the convicts, and I think he's best described as being scarred by his guilt. Ralph Clark was the director of the play in the play.
Several of the convicts have run away. If I'm not made first lieutenant soon... Harry!
I saw the light in your tent.
And it was just a beautiful character arc between him having no connection to these convicts and then realising that these convicts are human.
Not be very pleased to see me here. But our ancestors are thousands of miles away.
I cannot be a disgrace to Madagascar.
And just saw how much of a difference putting on this play could make to these
But
convicts.
the life's departed. What arms across worthy?
The scene where the indigenous families are huddled around a campfire and we see them work off Jet's music to become infected and become sick and dying. And the end of the fabric ends up in Liz Morden's hand, who is a convict. She takes hold of the fabric, dips it in the water, and uses it to kind of heal the wound. So we were speaking across time and space. To make the audience think about how do our actions have repercussions? How do our actions connect in terms of truth and reconciliation within Australia? They were so mature and so resilient, and they arrived on that day. It was like arriving at a consummate professional event. And I think that was the magic that we felt, even though everything had fallen apart around us. The students understood that the inherent worth of the work and the process of doing it and learning from each other
A conspiracy!
You can't play a man, Dabby. You're playing a man. Jack Wilford.
They just came as humble and beautiful individuals that just really embraced that day together.
Mary, the holy innocent, and Phoebe, bitch!
That last week was just a massive bonding experience.
Ah.
It was incredible to dive into these people's lives and show a story through art.
You don't understand, Long. Here's the play. It's called The Recruiting Officer.
Oh, I can do that too!
Every step of the way I felt like I was working with people that were beyond their years. The students just lifted their game and taught me a lesson in understanding the beauty of the work for what it is and for these moments that they created together.
Major Ross.
No discipline.
Hats off to Miss Parker, the director. The way that she brought us together and really revealed the meaning and the power behind art and theatre.
I'm seeing them. All of them are dead. Help me.
It was unlike anything I'd ever seen.
Shot, sir.
But there was a nice moment at the end when Miss Parker wanted all the cameras to be turned off, and we just went on stage and we were clapping and singing, and we're doing the bowing.
For all of the actors to just appreciate everything we've been through together.
Yeah, the crew, the camera crews, and everyone came.
Yeah, it was just nice. We just had this nice little moment on stage.
A kind of reality check is that we also do this for the love of it and for the passion that we all have as individuals for the art.
And we did like bows for like no audience, but it was like the home was like everyone on stage, and because we've become really close over the process.
The cast just had completely bonded, and it made it more than it could have been with a live audience.
So whenever I hear that song, I think of that exact moment of the bows and seeing everyone and thinking this is the final time we're going to be like, family unit in a way. And yeah, it really makes me cry.
It was sad, and we're all crying, and nobody cared about COVID because everybody was hugging, and it all just, like, time stood still. And it was beautiful because of the magic of the relationships and the memories that were captured in that moment of working so hard and then not having it, but having it, but not having it, and half having it. It was just lovely to share that moment without anyone watching, and it just being a moment of humanity. I don't think anyone in the room, like, a lot of people just said, we'll never forget that.
I got a lot from it, and I hope that everybody did as well.
It's something I will never forget.
I think all my test scores from that week went down.
That feeling I've never kind of had before.
That, I guess, is one thing we will talk about in many years to come.
We kind of all found belonging here doing this play together.
And we can, share the good times we have and remember, maybe even watch this.
For me, it made me have close relationships with everyone.
We have to then live that and make sure that that memory is continued.
Yeah, it's just legacy.
Yeah.
Legacy.
One of the students wrote something that I think captures this period and the play, why it was worth doing it. You saw that we needed this play in this day and age, and people needed to hear its message. And even though we don't have an audience, and it sucks, I think that everyone involved in this experience has grown and learned from their characters, and we'll spread the message of love and compassion to those around us in every day after this, till we're old and grey. This play will forever be in all of our hearts and never be forgotten. And I just thank you so much for being amazing and supportive and kind.